Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and today I'm going to talk once again about Star Stable Online and go into the story. I'm an indie author, a development editor, a sometime peer reviewer, and a game developer. Disclaimer. There are spoilers for Star Stable and Harry Potter ahead. Then we have the difference in Harry Potter's and Star Stable's target demographic. The biggest is gender. Harry Potter was written for boys. No, the existence of Hermione Granger as one of the main trio doesn't mean it's written for girls. Girls, who are expected to empathize with boys, are afterthoughts in the market for Harry Potter. Girls liking Harry Potter is a bonus, just like girls liking Percy Jackson or Artemis Fowl. Those books were written for boys. And Hermione Granger exists to be an expositional mouthpiece for Rowling, and has very little to no arc of her own. She, like Ron and Draco, don't really grow over the course of the series. Not even Harry does that much, to be honest. Her big moment is in the 4th year when she shows up pretty at the Yule Ball on the arm of a celebrity, and anything else that she tries, like House Elf writes, gets knocked down and then forgotten. The story revolves around sports, and having Hermione do their homework, and tournaments that Hermione has to teach Harry what to do as he consistently procrastinates for no reason, and sports. Ginny Weasley's debut in Book 2 is pretty much her having a crush on Harry so bad she confesses everything to a soul-sucking diary because her crush on Harry means she has no friends. And later, when Ginny is shown to be sporty and Harry is sporty, they don't spend a lot of time together in the story. So the crush in 6th year is out of left field. And then Ginny is rather a trophy at the end of the book 7 for Harry defeating Voldemort. So she's a damsel in distress, a sexy lamp, and a trophy. Gee, at least Hermione got some screen time in, oh wait, damsel in distress, sexy lamp, trophy for Ron. Never mind. Add Molly Weasley and you have the 3 characters Rowling inserted herself as in the narrative. I'm not touching Molly right now. Now, Star Stable is written for girls. It has horse riding, and clothes, and horse riding, and lots of kidnappings and us doing chores for slave wages. I'm not entirely sure what targeted at girls really means here outside of the horses and clothes. Clothes are another video. There is nothing else that is even remotely girl stereotyped interest thrown on here. Okay, we fixed some gardens, but it's about it. Once it was over, and it hasn't been remodeled yet. Do some cooking from time to time? Pancakes! Yum! They took out the decorating crest for Christmas. The decorating crests. I'm lost. And outside of horses, there are no sports, girly or otherwise. Soccer/football? Gymnastics? Tennis? Field hockey? Swimming? Punting? Archery? Anything. Fishing is one of those stock MMORPG minigame things. I mean, girls liking fishing really depends on the girls. Can I read a book while I'm out there? And okay, we can craft some clothes. Some druid clothes. But again, that's actually a pretty typical MMORPG mechanic. Done rather poorly here, or at least a very old mechanic. The Tinkerbell MMO thing did it better. Is that still around? You can't call it special or girl-oriented when every MMORPG has it, and might do it better depending. I don't think the defeat the enemies to get loot is really that better. Other MMOs might have farming. That's better. We don't even have housing, or farming, or long list of mechanics. Painting something pink and giving it rainbows and horses that fly doesn't actually make it targeted for girls. I don't want to get into post-World War II gendered marketing, but Star Stable is a good example of post-World War II gendered marketing. Throw some pink on it. Now it's for girls. Nerf is notorious for this. That is, when they bother. And Lego. Oh, God. Lego. And Hasbro. Our supporting characters are stereotypes. Linda is now a smart, nerdy girl who has a website, maybe a vlog, writes fanfiction, and somehow works for the Baroness despite her unprofessional clothing. Did they forget Linda is supposed to work for the Baroness? That was the entire reason the Baroness kidnapped her and put her in the castle. Like Linda found stuff in the library the Baroness didn't want her to find, and we later confirmed, "Yeesh, lady, take it out of your library if you don't want bookworms to find things." But at least we've been around Linda enough she has personality. Then there is Alex, sporty girl who is from the wrong side of the tracks, has a lot of siblings she treats badly, grew up poor, depressed mom, and is the character the plot likes to beat on with a stick. Maybe bisexual. Lisa is, well, she was supposed to be this rebellious artist, but they've decided to mellow her out into someone who is in deep grief for her dead mother. Like, I'm not sure. There was some rebellion against the Druids, but she doesn't have a close relationship with them anyways. And Anne, well, Anne was this fashion-obsessed, wanting to be a model, unapologetic snob in her dressage finery who would push Mr. Sands into a portal and then whine about her chip manicure when she got home in time for dinner. Now she's supposed to be nice and wants to be a vet and, well, forget the fashion? There's no story given for this. It's gone from, well, a stock high school type character who is more legally blonde than Mean Girls to something, I don't know, really bland. Her outfit doesn't help. And for being nice, she's still really not. Just as that boy Loretta, the typical mean girl, wants, so we're supposed to like him. I don't even know anything about him other than his secret family and he likes lasagna and owned a leather coat. Seriously? Most of the rest of the characters are worse. The female characters in Yordvik range from the offensive, Courtney Summers, Professor Einstein, Big Bunny, Jimmy Olivetree, Silencia, to extremely bland. Lisa, to outright crazy. Madison. Don't get me started on Madison's parents. They push me into a rage. These offensive characters are offensive because they aren't portrayed as competent at what they do. Their jobs are being treated like a joke, and so they aren't characters the player could look up to. Professor Einstein wants to blow up the world for some reason. Big Bunny is... I have no words. And Courtney Summers is so offensive to plus-size people, and being the only plus-size female in the game, her entire personality is degrading. And the only major POC character in the story outside of Linda, Silencia, is supposed to be a ninja? I think she's supposed to be Eastern Asian, maybe? It's hard to tell because their darker skin tones are not that great. So much so the Chinese Li family might as well be white. The only real competent and likable female character outside of maybe Linda, who's in the middle of the road at stereotype, is the Baroness. And even she has this moment where she's portrayed as gullible, and I do hope she was just humoring us. Though many of the Baroness's better moments were in the Christmas and Valentine's quest, they removed. Loretta was a stereotypical mean girl and still can be. As is Tan, the Bobcats are portrayed as lazy and shallow. We haven't had enough time with the Bulldogs to say, because most of the stuff with them has been regulated to listen to them talk at holiday events. Yes, they keep trying to move story forward in conversations during holidays. This means if any of this is important or canon, new players aren't going to learn it. Like Ginny leaving for Brio Vista at some point. Or Furfall, that might not exist, having a Renaissance fair. Or Mr. Kemble's daughter wanting to join the Bulldogs in exchange for money. I swear, I didn't make that up. But it's in a holiday, so good luck finding out about it. Or how about the Jorvik Stables riding arena being haunted? That came up during an open house. They teased Starshine Ranch, I think, during a holiday? Christmas? That's the racing plot opportunity. We had more plot with Hugh in the Rescue Ranch than Starshine Ranch. And I have issues with the Rescue Ranch and Hugh, and even more with Starshine Ranch. And don't get me started on the racing plot that is Farrah, or the travesty that is Big Bonnie and HORSE. Lore books, while nice, do not compare with finding this out on our own through StoryQuest, aka content. Think about how horrifying and cool it would have been to find out this information out in a cinematic after a dramatic plot quest against Dark Core. Time to toss some lightning or soulspark and run like fury. Granted, the male NPCs in this game are much better. However, we do a lot less with them story-wise than we do with the female NPCs. Justin, Josh, Stein, Gavin the Forgetful, the Buttergoods, Ricky, Jupiter, Eric Hightower, Mr. Campbell, and the villains, male and female, aren't remotely competent and boiled down to stereotypes who are evil for the sake of being evil and hate kittens. Mr. Sands, who seemed competent, even pulled a, "Well, I'll help you rescue Justin because he's useless, really," last minute. Ha ha ha. Way to take the excitement out of this rescue, Mr. Sands. I was having fun trying to pull one over on you, but no. Herman and Evergrey are the only two male characters off the top of my head that are remotely reasonable. Well, most of the time. Herman can be a bit reckless. Justin, who got kidnapped for 5 years and is turning into the sparkly special boy, is more of a main character than the player character. This is like watching Miraculous Ladybug, and you know somehow that Marionette is supposed to be the main character, but all the advantages are going to Adrian, aka Chat Noir, while Marionette is constantly punished and must learn a lesson. It is gross. It is incredibly uncomfortable to watch if you're an adult or a teenager who knows better. Miraculous Ladybug is more extreme and has a lot more story than Star Stable Online. The principle is the same. Neither Elizabeth nor Rihanna, the two female druid figures we're supposed to look up to, are remotely likable. To make matters worse, Rihanna is a replacement goldfish for Elizabeth. Because, and I paraphrase a quote somewhere around the time of Elizabeth's passing, the game is changing and we have to say goodbye to some old characters. Meaning, they didn't want to change Elizabeth's character asset? That's what I got out of it. But they're going to have to do it anyways, so why are they making excuses to write her out of the story? It's just lazy? Or they were rewriting the story at that point in 2018 and 2019, and that could explain a lot? Oh yes, let's discuss Alex Payne. Alex, who can't decide if she even likes Elizabeth. Alex, who's given the short end of the stick as a stool rider. She has no riding discipline. Lisa, by all rights, is supposed to be cross-country, but her dad runs a Western ranch. So where does this leave Alex? Linda does show jumping and does dressage. This is why you can't change Lisa, because it shoves into the one area Alex might have, Western equitation, including trail riding and roping. Alex grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. Anne doesn't really like her. Soul riding is virtually all Alex has, and the story keeps punishing her for it by kidnapping Justin, who she seems really attached to before this whole, well, she might be bi thing with Maya, and by killing off her only druid mentor, Elizabeth. I mean, come on, depressed mom, lots of siblings, raised poor, still poor, but let's kidnap her male crush, forget once he's rescued he is her crush, and kill the person who might help her get to a better life. And then replace Elizabeth with a poorly introduced character who makes a lot of assumptions, and her lore books make me roll my eyes. You didn't get magic can be good and evil? Ugh, like, really? Naive is not precisely the word, and Rihannon's and Elizabeth's backstory are almost virtually identical on how they got to Jorvik. Also, it'd really help if there were more important Jorvik natives other than the Moorlands, Baroness Silverglade, Alex, and Herman in this game. Every time we turn around, there seems to be a lot of characters who were strangers to Jorvik before coming there. I think there are as many new to Jorvik or immigrants to Jorvik characters as there are natives, if not more immigrants. Just good grief. There is representation, which Rowan is horrible Aussie stereotype that makes even me cringe, and then there is this no longer makes sense. I'm adding sprinkles to my not making sense icing. And the setting is pretty typical European countryside, then they can't decide on an actual building style. Moorland is Tudor England. The Silverglade Equestrian Center is a mix of Tuscany and Greek revival, and I have no idea about that staple, but it's wrong. Silverglade has the colors of the Cotswolds without the actual yellow limestone. It needs to be replaced with Gen 3 graphics already. Fort Penta is Spanish? Maybe? Valedale is medieval countryside. Parts of New Hillcrest are American suburbs smashed up against English ironstone countryside. Fairgrove and Dundle are this weird Norse, Danish, and Celtic mashup. Oh well, at least it's somewhat original. Jarlaheim is a reworked castle, maybe? For a fortified town, it's missing a lot of building and needs to be bigger. Jorvik stables, I have no idea. Obviously, cohesiveness is not really a thing here, as isn't the concept of scale. Most of the culture is just ripped straight out of Sweden. Yule goats, little gnomes, the occasional reference to crawdad boils, that is, when there is culture at all. Harry Potter had a distinct setting, Scotland. Even Diagon Alley was based off the Narrows in Edinburgh. Jorvik, I have no idea. It seems English, it could be German, maybe it is Sweden. I don't know. Harry Potter had a distinct culture. English. A bit of sanitized English, but English. It's hard to tell when the island of Jorvik is because they say it's so far north near the Arctic Circle there is the midnight sun and aurora borealis, but there is also temperate rainforest redwood trees and it never snows. Not even in Dino Valley, I guess. That's just scientifically improbable meteor crash site that might have pushed the Earth out of orbit and shifted the axis. I don't want to think about this too hard. Did dinos die because of Jorvik? They are, again, trying to have everything and please everyone and thus have a mess. If you are going to be Sweden, go full hog Sweden and just be done with it. I'll accept the Tudor stuff. I mean, Yorkshire's has a Jorvik museum because York is the Anglo-Saxon version of Jorvik. Go figure. This is exactly what I meant in my last video, where Jorvik doesn't have a brand. Jorvik doesn't know what it wants to be or how it wants to look. There is very little visually exciting or interesting about Jorvik outside of Firgrove and Dundle. And then in their cartoon set in Dundle, they don't take advantage of their unique architecture. Just please, please, for the love of little green apples, do not go medieval Tudor architecture. Every MMORPG in the fantasy genre is medieval Tudor. That would make things worse, not better. Just look at the Unity asset store. It's mind-boggling. Harry Potter, it is not. I'm curious to what the brief Nils and Magnus got back when they were writing Starshine Legacy. It was definitely a science portal fantasy in genre, I think, though I'm not 100% sure they're drawing from old Germanic and Norse Eddas for the basics of Edine versus Garnock story, female warriors, the sun, the moon, the stars, and lightning. The poem Volsupa is translated by Henry Adam Bellows to read, "The sun, the sister of the moon from the south, her right hand cast over heaven's rim. No knowledge she had where her home should be. The moon knew not what might was his. The stars knew not where their stations were." In Thor to get lightning, it appears Mani and Sol, or Suna, are sisters. We have the royal tree Yggdrasil, which is an ash, not an apple. There are a lot of heavenly horses. But we also have the concept of Adine and Garnek as aliens, which reminds me of the Japanese folklore Ark of Yamato, the escape ship of the Moon Tribe Celestials that used it to escape their supernatural plane when Orichi, the multi-headed dragon, invaded, and when it crashed to Earth, released demons on the world. And of course, Garnak reminds me of Cthulhu. This is all info from before Star Stable Online, which introduced both witches, Mrs. Holdworth being Mother Hulda anyone, and the druids and all these monsters copyrighted currently by Universal. If we'd stuck strictly to what Starshine Legacy was, doing the additions of the Keepers of Adine, who shouldn't be called druids at all, we'd be better off. I don't know about witches. I can accept it because there needs to be a third party here, but other things have to go, like the Einsteins and Igor and the Buttergoods being vampires. They can be out in the sun. That's really old, original Dracula Nosferatu mythology there. Not only for copyright reasons, they are only out of book copyright, not movie visual copyright. Because they're messing up the science fantasy thing Starshine Legacy had going. Adding monsters makes it more horror, and there's no reason for them other than cool shoutouts. If you're science fantasy, then you get to keep Big Bonnie as long as she's the clockmaker type of the Snow Queen. I can accept some steampunk if done properly. So far, not. If Starshine Stable Online kept to their Norse roots, it'd be very helpful. Their original Starshine Legacy concept gave them an identity. The more they add, once again, the more muddled it's going to get. Too bad they seem to want to throw it out or not make use of it properly. In contrast again to Harry Potter, who gets the short stick this time. What little, and I do mean very little, information we got about their wizarding culture, which was next to none, I swear the fandom has done more, was rooted in both Arthurian legend and medieval classicism, which studied Greek and Roman mythology / rhetoric and supplement to Catholic Christianity. Yes, some of those medieval scholars were a bit of a trip, which makes some sense since Arthur himself was set on the tail end of the Roman invasion in the time the Roman Catholic Church was subsuming Germanic holidays like Yule and Ostara. If Star Stable had kept to Starshine Legacy's roots, they'd be better off than Harry Potter. They still need more culture, though, in Jorvik otherwise. Okay, I'm gonna sum up and end this. Star Stable story and brand are more than a bit of a mess with everything they've added since Starshine Legacy and things they've taken out plot-wise. And without this fantasy tagline and core value, they have no identity that sets them apart from anything, which makes it good they're the only open-world horse game there is. By taking out the Adine reincarnation storyline, the players have no personal stake in the bigger conflict of player versus ultimate evil. The smaller story about friendship for the Soul Riders simply isn't being shown on screen. A storyline that involves any racing mechanics in a practical way doesn't exist. The characters from around Jorvik are either stereotypes, monster ripoffs, or badly done. There's an NPC that is more of a main character than the player character. They don't know their genre, so they don't have any story and world rules and limitations on what characters can and cannot do, or the world, down to biome settings, can and cannot do. The story has drop plots, unrealized plots, and ignored plots. And for being a story for girls, there isn't actually a lot of girl-oriented activities in the game. Like, someone needs to pick up the American Girl books, or watch St. Trinian's, rewatch Legally Blonde, or take a run through Monster High, Ever After High, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, Winx Club, the cartoon version. You know what? There are Barbie movies and Tinkerbell movies that aren't that bad. There is plenty of media out there to watch and research and get your head around, so much to say that making a game for girls is a challenge is insulting. Just make your game. Put in the same mechanics you would for boys and one researched that girls like and watch the money roll in. Dear Lord, Mattel did it years ago. But doing that would take away from the cash horse it is monthly horses. All of this for me to say no. Star Stable isn't at all like Harry Potter. Star Stable isn't distinct enough to be compared to anything, because then they'd have to decide on something. And you can't stand for anything if you're trying to stand for everything. Thank you for listening to my analysis about how Star Stable is not Harry Potter in any way from the viewpoint of a writer. Take care of yourself, bless, stay safe, and as always, my lovelies, I'll see you in the next video.